Welcome to my daily review. Today is Thursday, April 24, and you are looking at a daily chart of the Nasdaq, which was up another 458 points today, 2.74%. This is the third day in a row of 2% or greater gains here for the Nasdaq. You can see 2.71% on Tuesday, 2.5% yesterday, and 2.74% today. So the market, excuse me, the index, the Nasdaq is starting to heal after this low here on April 7th, 14,784. It had that sharp rally and then pulled back a little bit. And that now the last three sessions, obviously this is news driven and the news has been better and more positive. So the Nasdaq is reacting to headline news. Uh, that being said, very constructive day today as it closed well above the 21, where you see yesterday it closed below. Today it closed above the 21. Today it closed, you see the high was 17,174. That's significant, but it closed at 166, only 8 points off of the high. So that's a nice hammer candle heading into tomorrow. If you own, the TQQQs or the QQQs, this looks pretty good for tomorrow setup, at least for the morning. But my next, threshold, my level that it needs to get over is 17,202, which is from April 9th. So what I want to see in the next week or so is closes above this 21, this magenta line. You can see that this is the 10. The green line is curling up. This magenta line's at 21. It's going to start curling up. So it needs to close above there, starting tomorrow and next week. And it needs to get above the 17,202, not immediately, but, by next week, needs to clear that level and start trading towards this 50 simple moving average, which is now only 3.4% below its 50. So, it looks good for like a V-shaped recovery. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you could get, this V-shaped recovery. It could also, run into the 50 and get rejected and make a new low. So you got to keep an open mind and be flexible. It's based on headlines, and if, the US administration is just a little softer, takes a little softer stance on their tariffs, the market will like that. It's also liking the clarity that it's getting from companies, even if they're writing off, writing down, I should say, tariff, either passing it on to the consumers or their clients, or they're just eating it themselves. The market is getting clarity on what these companies are doing. So that's also important. It's taking away the uncertainty aspect out of the market. So, I could just go to Tesla's earnings, which were not good, and it rallied on bad earnings because it's getting clarity now. So it's not going down anymore. So it's got to go the other way, right? Anyway, good day for the NASDAQ. Still has work to do, much work to do, but this is very encouraging for me. What we want to see is the closes above the 21 now and the trade above the 17,202. Let's take a look at the SPY. Or you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the S&P 500 instead of the exchange traded fund. This one is having trouble getting back above, 5,500, but it did take out, though, at 54.81. Today it was 54.89. So it took out the April 9th high where the NASDAQ did not. So that then it closed, well above the 21 as well. But, same thing. We want to see closes above the 21 here. The S&P 500 was up 100, we'll call it 109 points, 2.03%. So 3 nice days on the Nasdaq, 3 nice days on the S&P 500. We'll take a look at the Russell 2000. And this one is trading above the 21. So, and it cleared the April 9th high. So this looks very positive for the small caps, up 2% today, 38 points, close at 1957, which is a very good year. And the last one was the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Rejected, no, I shouldn't say rejected, resistance at the 21 here, rallied up to that level, but still it's got a nice hammer candle. Very good possibility that it rallies through there either, tomorrow or next week. Tomorrow's Friday, and I just got to say that, we've had a good week, right? So you got to expect some profit taking towards the end of the session, and the Nasdaq is up, 5.4% this week. There's going to be some profit. Well, you would expect some profit taking tomorrow. Doesn't have to be that way, but I expect it. Anyway, the close at 17,166 needs to take out the April 9th, 17,202, and it's got to close above and trade above the 21. So anyway, nice day for the Nasdaq, nice day for all the indexes all the way around. I've got to get to earnings because to me earnings is still important. I know, you know, the Fed is important, liquidity is important, the administration's policy is important, fiscal and monetary policy is important, but earnings are important. Longer term, a company's only going to trade higher. Longer term, if it can continue to take market share and tell the story of earnings and sales growth quarter after quarter, year after year. So I am interested in earnings, and I'm also interested in leaders, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. Merck reported this morning, and the report they have a patent cliff. A lot of these big pharma stocks like Bristol Myers just flatly came out and said today, we're buying some stuff. They need to buy some growth. Pfizer, Merck, Johnson and Johnson, all these companies, they need to buy growth. And so Merck did that. This morning they announced a deal taking out SWTX, Springworks Therapeutics. I think it was 3.4 billion, $47. A lot of people thought that was too cheap. But the deal's a deal, and it's still, a couple bucks below that $47 level. Maybe there'll be another offer coming in, who knows? But congrats to the longs if you're long at SWTX. That's a nice move. Anyway, Merck let off the earnings barrage this morning. Pepsi reported as well, down 4%. The consumer is going to be, how shall I say this delicately? It's just going to put pressure on the consumers, the slowing economy and the tariffs. Either a company's going to pass the prices on to the consumer, which is inflationary, which means that, we're probably not going to get our rate cuts that we want. So the president has got to, chill out on this tariff thing. Or I'm not an economist. I shouldn't say that. They're going to do what they want to do, and the companies are going to do what they have to do. Procter and Gamble came out and said today that they're just going to flat, pass the pricing on to the consumers. They're not going to eat the cost of tariffs. And so they're beholden to their shareholders. So they're it's a gamble, right? No pun intended. Procter and Gamble's taking a gamble that their consumers, their client base will pay more for their products, and they're not going to pass the costs on to the shareholders. They're not going to eat the cost, I should say. So they're betting that the higher prices will be paid by the consumer. We'll have to wait and see. They lowered guidance, and the stock was down nearly 4%. So the cost of your, I don't know what they sell, shaving cream, soap, shampoo, whatever, toothpaste is going to go up because they think they can pass the price on to the consumer. So some companies split it in half, half they eat, half their clients get it. Some of them eat all of it, and then some of them just pass it totally on to the consumer. So each one's different. This is not a case where the clarity from the earnings call helped this company, Procter and Gamble, down 4%. All right, the couple of the miners reported this morning. Freeport McMoran, nice 7% move here on earnings. Like I said, do not be tap dancing on the graves of these miners. I still think there's some life in them. NEM reported this morning and had a nice, 5% nice move here. These things aren't going to move on earnings like, ServiceNow and some of these other companies. But, nice report, still showing a solid growth, triple-digit earnings growth and 25% sales growth and a nice response of 5%. I mentioned ServiceNow. They reported last night. Beautiful move here, 15% up, only $125 here. But the key thing for me is it just cleared all these moving averages. And when I'm looking for leaders, I want leaders that are going to be trading above their moving averages. They don't have to be making new highs, but they need to be above their moving averages. I've been posting my screens every morning at mcstockcharts.com of these stocks that are doing that. And that's what I want. Stocks above their moving averages, because that's what leading stocks do. They lead above their averages. And that hence the term leading stock. How about that? Lam Research reported last night. Nice response. Not above all the moving averages, but still, that's a start, right? You got to start somewhere. Texas Instruments, these are, cyclical business, these semiconductors, they reported 11% sales growth, up 6.5%. Much work to do here, and you can see this thing has just been bludgeoned like Lam Research. So did a lot of work to do with those companies. IBM reported a good quarter, for IBM. Their HashiCorp purchase is doing really well and providing growth. It only the deal only closed like with a month left in the quarter, so that growth will be seen in the following quarters. HashiCorp is going to be a big boon for this company, as well as that Red Hat deal. But IBM was down a lot this morning. And I own this one for I've had it for a long time for just in my trust for bequeath to the family. But when I saw it down that much, I said I gotta add a little bit here. 225, that's ridiculous on that type of earnings. The new CEO, he replaced Jenny Romedy December 31, 2021. Yeah, right as the bear market hit. So he came in right about here. And he has done a great job. And we've seen a lot of stock appreciation in IBM. If I get a daily, yeah, he came in right here, right at the beginning of 22. So that's a nice move. Thank you very much. Yeah, nice little sell off here. Still consolidating within a base if you're trading this thing, which this is not, to me, this is not a trading stock at all. It's just, it's base after base after base. But longer term, it pays you to hold it. And anyway, the sell off was a little ridiculous. Chipotle Mexican Grill, eh, pretty, same store sales were weak. And it just traded up to its 50 and looks like it got rejected there today. Let's see how it, just started right out of the gate, hit that fifth moving average and then sold off, just flat into the close. They had a 50 for one stock split, so just a lot of shares in this thing. It's turned into a big old slug. It's bloated with too many shares. But anyway, up to the 50. Anyway, that was it for earnings reports last night and this morning. And I'm going to get to, you know, when we get into a rally mode and we get into a power trend, you don't really even need to look at the indexes. You need to identify leading stocks. Last night, I pointed out in 2009, Netflix was a leader coming out of the financial crisis, and it's doing it again here. And when the leading stocks lead, you look at the leading stocks, you don't look at the index. And if the leading stocks are going higher, it doesn't really matter what the index is doing. These are the stocks we want to own. What did I say about moving averages? This one's trading well above its, yeah, it's 9.4% above its 10. That's great. I should actually, when you're looking at leaders, you should look at the five, when the market starts healing and getting better and we get into a power trend. I'm not saying that we are right now, but we certainly could. You look at the 5.5% above the 5 EMA, and it's up 13% this week. So you can see the blue dot here indicating strength. And yeah, you got to know who the leaders are. You want to own the leaders. I say this all the time. When you're, in the bottom of the ninth inning, you're down by one, you got the bases loaded and two outs. Who do you want at the plate? Your 200 hitter or your 350 hitter? Well, I want my Barry Bonds at the plate. I want my Tony Gwynns. I want the all-time all-stars at the plate. And that's what the same principle with the leading stock. You want to own these leaders. This is definitely a leader. Palantir is showing flashes. Is it making new highs like Netflix? No, but it's still consolidating within this base. This is really a double bottom. Pattern Rec is picking this up as a cup, which is fine. It doesn't really matter. To me, I just look at the moving averages. And when I show you those screens in the morning, it's all about the moving averages. Of course, you have to have, price above a certain level because that's what institutions like to buy. And you need volume, and that's Palantir's got all this. This is a great stock to trade with options. It's very liquid. It's 8.3% above the five. So yeah, it's getting a little stretched here, but you can see it's up after hours, and I think we're going to have a good morning tomorrow anyway, especially with that hammer candle on the index. So Palantir looks good. A couple other ones that I'm looking at for leadership. This is CrowdStrike. I should have had this on my ready list this week. I'm kicking myself. I didn't put much software in. I just put I think Robinhood and Palantir. I forget what else I had. Anyway, you can't cry over spilt milk. But anyway, CrowdStrike, nice cup with handle. It it had that old, I've had it on the ready list recently because of that old 389. That thing still is a good buy point for me. You could see this RS line, heading north with the S&P, so it's showing relative strength, up 7.3% today. Nice move for CrowdStrike. Is it making a new high? No. But is it showing leadership? Yes. It's 6.6% above the five. This is showing tremendous strength. Let's take a look at the weekly on this. Yeah, nice little base there, 9 weeks, poking out, trading near its high. What is it? 80 cents off its high today, closed 99% of the daily range. So just tremendous strength for CrowdStrike. Another one that I like in the cybersecurity space, and I think you have to own a cybersecurity stock. It's an essential in today's environment. This is Rubrik taking market share. It's 5.9% above the five, so it's definitely showing strength. Pattern rec is picking up the double bottom here. It's got a standard at 76.11. I'm not going to wait that long. I don't think I have this one on the ready list, but gosh, I like this stock a lot. Anyway, I'm going to move on because there's too many that I want to, show here that I think are, if they're not leading, they're potential leaders. And one is in or a couple in the cryptocurrency space. This is MicroStrategy. It's a little bit too tethered to Bitcoin for me, and you might as well just buy Bitcoin. But, it's up, 1.3% today. And for the week, it's had a nice week, 10.5% move. I don't know. I had a buy point. I forget where the buy point was. I think it was, if I go to the weekly, it was above last week's high. Maybe that was it. 320. Yeah, I think that was it. So if you got in there, you're having a good week. I still think 340, 359 is a area of interest here, but it's trading above. It's 4.1% above the five. So definitely showing leadership. And you're looking for, these stacked moving averages. The green, the magenta, that's the five, the 21, the 50. You get those things stacked and trending in the right direction. That's what I'm looking for with the index. But this is trending ahead. And that's what I'm talking about, leadership. These things are showing leadership ahead of the index. So it tells me if this continues, the index will follow. So that's why I say pay attention to the leaders. Hood, Robinhood to me is definitely showing signs of leadership. Is the 10 and the 21 above the 50? No, not yet, but it closed above the 50 today. Nice hammer candle there. 96% of its daily range up. Wow, okay, 7.8%. I own this one, and I didn't even know that. How about that? You could say, well, I'm just gonna say it's still forming a double bottom base. This is in its embryonic stages, hasn't even popped out yet. It's got a long way to go to catch up to that 66.91 following its most recent earnings report. Speaking of earnings, they report next week here, the 30th, so a week from yesterday, so next Wednesday. All right, Hood, another potential leader is Dutch Bros. I know people are going to laugh at me like, what do you mean? This thing's going nowhere. It's lagging way below its 50. Earnings May 7th. We'll talk after that. I think they're going to crush it. And, just like it did last time, it, rallied up what, 29%? Yeah. So, I bought some calls for that event. They might turn out, to be nothing. I might have to lose everything. That's okay. I'm willing to take that bet. I think they're taking market share. Anyway, moving right along. Spotify, obvious leadership potential here. Another double bottom base above, the moving averages, 3.1% above the five, 6.5% above the 21. It's kind of messy in here with the pattern rack and the S&P line and the RS rating, but hopefully you can see that green line. trading through the 50 here. So that to me is a, bullish sign here for Spotify, right there around that 600 level. This one has a 621 buy point. I like to get in before the standard anyway. Spotify, if you're a longer term holder and you don't have to deal with all this, trading here in and out, you say, I'm going to hold it. And if it goes lower, I'm going to buy more. And if it goes higher, I might trim some. But overall, you can just trade around a core. To me, this is a core position, much like Netflix, which people aren't gonna cancel their Spotify subscription just because the economy gets a little bad. I don't think. It doesn't cost that much, and people love their entertainment. Some other names that I'm going to throw out there is a Roblox. This one, you could see the 10 clearly trading through the 50, the 21 right behind here, and you could now it's 4.8% above that, 5, which is ramping higher. This one looks fantastic. You could say that, I was going to say this on all these stocks, but they broke above a downtrend line this week, and there's no guarantee that that's going to continue. That's an obvious, just another indicator along with the moving averages trading through, the faster moving averages trading through the slower moving averages. This one wants to trade north. Earnings are May 1st, which is what? When's May 1st? Next Thursday. How about that? Right? Yeah, next Thursday. Don't make me do math. Yeah, okay. Roblox looks fantastic. Another one in this kind of software gaming group is Take-Two Interactive. Don't laugh now. This could be, this is a $40 billion market cap. This could easily be a leader. It's 3.7% above its 5. This thing is showing tremendous strength. You could see the 10, excuse me, that's the 5. I switched it. The 5 is 3.7, the 21 is 5.9, and the 50 is 6.4. So this is got the 10, the 21, and the 50 stacked, heading in the right direction. To me, this is a buy at 220. I should have this one on my ready list as well. We'll just have to see what they do tomorrow. And then next week, I'll settle down with another ready list for this week. This week's ready list has been doing fine, so I'm not going to mess with it. Uber, I believe this one could be a leader. I mentioned it yesterday where it had that, it looked like it was going to rally, then it pulled back. Well, that's okay. Just pull back to its, I guess that's its 10 EMA. What was the low yesterday? 73.23. I just have it on the 5 now, but you could see it blasted higher today. 77.58 would be, an area of interest here. They had a deal with Volkswagen, I believe, was the news today. But 6% move. This one could definitely be a leader. I expect it to be a leader. If you know, if if these stocks continue to trade higher, the Nasdaq and the index will get into that power trend as well. So that's why I'm watching these moving averages closely and see if the faster moving averages can trade through the slower ones. And I think we're on to something here. And the last one I'm going to cover is PEN. This is only a 11.5 billion market cap company, but it's got that double bottom base. Nice move today. That's got to be an earnings move up 7%. Up, whoa, 4% after hours. So very nice. I got to look more into that. Medical products, they've been doing pretty well. I always think of TMDX when I think of medical products. Man, this one is moving as well. Another one that I like that could definitely be a leader. Got some work to do. Up, nearly 7% this week. Very nice. All right. I'm going to get to an area that intrigues me, and that's not the big pharma, because I know the big pharma has a lot of cash. They have a patent cliff, but these small cap biotech stock I mentioned earlier, where SWTX got bought out, and these biotech stocks that I'm bringing up, these are definitely buyout candidates. There's a reason why they've been leading, while the Nasdaq's been floundering. This thing is 3.8% above the 5, 10% above the 21, and they didn't really crater like, the software names and the hardware names, and a lot of stocks cratered. These ones didn't. So it tells me, I don't know, the term beach ball underwater, I guess you could call it that. But when they don't sell off with the market and they show strength, I'm not saying always, but oftentimes they tend to trade higher. They tend to show strength. I'm not going to say leaders. on a 5 billion market cap stock. But I like the position of this one. Inside day today. But yeah, the ADMA, I had this one on the ready list this week because of that pattern. It's only up, 5% this week, decent week, but with the indexes doing so well, ADMA's got the earnings coming up, so maybe some caution ahead of earnings. SMMT, another one. Summit, this one just blasted out of a base. This is what you want to see, this power out of a base. And we haven't seen a lot of this lately, but for some reason, these biotechs, they're just showing tremendous strength, up 49% this week. WGS is another one that I like. And this one, it's still consolidating within a base, trading still pretty tight to the 6.8%, but still consolidating. You can see the double bottom base pattern there, and the relative strength. This one, and I like a lot, up 14% this week, but still in a base. Hasn't even broken out yet. So I like that type of action. TGTX. Let me see, TGTX. Oh, Roche reported this morning. I didn't go through the Roche report. Oh well, I'm not going to do it now, am I? Might as well. Roche reported this morning, and they had good sales, up 2%. I think they're in the market to buy something, but their multiple sclerosis drug, which had a run rate of about 10 or 11% growth for the last couple of years, about 6.5 billion, expected to be about 7 billion this year. It was down, sequentially, which tells me there's not fewer MS cases. There are more MS cases, but this company here is taking market share. They got a better drug. They got a less expensive drug. There's a lot of switching going on from Osiferous to Briumvi, TG's product. You don't have to take it from me. I mean, I read these social media pages like Reddit and Facebook, but there was key opinion leaders, I think it was last week, where the doctor from UCSF, he had 7,000 patients in his network, and he said 20, a quarter to a third of his patients had switched to Briumvi. And this is recent, so this is not anecdotal evidence like you hear on the social media pages. This is primary source evidence. His physical patients in his network, which is 7,000 patients, a quarter to a third of them switched to Briumvi recently. So I'm expecting a blowout quarter. Last quarter, they grew 108%. Excuse me. They had $108 million in sales, which, the prior quarter, 63, 73, 83. So you think 93, right? It's a kind of a sequential growth. But in this business, their growth is recurring, so every one of their patients is on. So any ad makes it an exponential growth. So it's not linear, but it is exponential. And if they're getting more and more patients, as well as maintaining their older patients, I think they're going to do about 130 here, and they're going to have to raise guidance. So I'm thinking a beat and raise quarter for TGTX. So this is my largest holding. I bought some calls for after earnings today because I think they're going to crush it and raise guidance. I could be wrong, often wrong, but seldom in doubt, never in doubt. But anyway, I thought it was interesting just reading through the Roche earnings report that Osiferous sales were down. And that's significant because this is a huge addressable market and TG's gaining market share. So I wanted to spend some time on that. Just technically, it's above its moving averages, 3.3% above the 5, 5% above the 21. And you could just see this one has had its moving averages, going in the right direction for a long time. Remember, that's on the 5 now. I'm going to switch back because yeah, this could be, a leading stock within a niche group, right? And you can make a lot of money in niche stocks, but you're not going to have a $6 billion market cap as an index leader. But you can, like I said, do well in a niche type stock like multiple sclerosis when you have, best of breed drug. There you are, the 10, the 21, the 50, definitely trending in the right direction. This thing looks like it's going to start a power trend and make new highs. 43.32 would be, the takeout target of the old high. And it's only been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 weeks. So give it a couple more weeks here. They're going to report, I believe. Well, they have announced report, earnings report. Probably announce it on a Friday evening and then report on Monday morning because they have, I was chatting with some gentlemen today and they have over 25 million shares short. And that always makes me nervous when there's a lot of shorts in your stock because I always think like, what the hell do they know that I don't? But out of 140 million, 25 are sold short. About 18% of the float is short. So a lot of if they deliver a good number and raise guidance, those shorts are going to get cooked and they're going to have to cover. And they'll short at higher prices, of course, but because they eventually think this company will fail, but I don't think it's going to be this quarter. Anyway, I spent a lot of time on that one. SLNO is another one that, why are these stocks? This is what gets me. Somebody knows something always, right? That's why I look at the options chain on a lot of stocks. Like if there's an area of interest, somebody knows something and it shows up there. Also, it just shows up here. Somebody's buying this stock at higher prices and somebody likes it. And you can see these moving averages are totally stacked 10, 21, 50. This thing looks fantastic. That's SLNO. I got to do some more research on that one. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. At mcstockcharts.com, we never give up. We also like to honor the great Steve Jobs every afternoon, and I'm going to do that today with one more thing. Google reported tonight, and I had mentioned I think that the QQQs or the TQQQs will be good at least at the open tomorrow. If you have calls, you probably sell the spike in the morning. But Google reported tonight, nice beat, top and bottom line. They raised their dividend. Yippee. I think they're trying to get in the Dow or something. They should be in the Dow, right? King of the internet. And they also initiated or have a $70 billion buyback program. So it was trading a little higher. Well, last I looked, it was around 169, but still up 4.5%. We'll take that. And like I said, that's going to carry stocks, I believe, like Palantir or Datadog, whatever, suits your fancy. And of course, it's a big part of the QQQ. So you see that's up after hours as well. So Google is a big kahuna. And when they report something like that, that's going to move the indexes and it's going to move those exchange traded funds. All right, Intel. Intel, I used to, have AMD, and I used to look forward to AMD on Intel's earnings day because every time Intel, spit the bit, which if you look, at this type of action, which is often like every quarter, AMD AMD went up more on Intel's quarter than they did on their own quarter. It's not up after hours here, and they're going to report next, May 6th. So we'll hear from Lisa Su on that day. Man, look at that industry group, 194 out of 197. But usually AMD does well as they're taking market share from Intel, but we have kind of a different market now because more artificial intelligence data centers, they're going to have to take more market share. Anyway, I didn't mean to point that out for AMD, but anyway, I'm going to go to CLS, which reported a fantastic quarter. I don't get this, why it's down 3%. They beat top bottom line. They raised significantly and it's down. You could see a company like this with a $10 billion market cap, they're doing 10 billion in sales. So it's one-time sales and it's still, can't rally on strong earnings. I just we'll see what happens tomorrow with this one. This was a former leader in 2023 and 2024. You can see this. I would just ramp from like, what is it, $10 to 140. So a nice 14 bagger. How about that? For CLS. We'll see what it does tomorrow, but strong earnings report. And that's all companies can do is report strong earnings report. TMUS, no, no, thank you. No soup for you, down 5% after hours. I did not see the report. I'll have it in the morning. AEM, I think they're having their conference call tomorrow morning. We'll see. Like I said, do not dance on these miners' graves here. Yeah, because with gold, so gold, last time I checked, it was up like a 0.5%, up 3,350, somewhere around there. But they're going to have a conference call tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if this thing, bounced off the 21 here. Yeah, this is the trend, and the trend is your friend, until it snaps at the end. Now, if it slices to 21, that's a different story. If it slices to 50, it's adios muchachos. But to me, the trend is still intact there. And just a couple days pullback does not mean you start, beating your chest that you shorted it and made a couple of bucks. Get a life. GILD, Gilead. This is another company that could buy some growth here, the 6-7%. They have a ton of cash. I wouldn't be surprised if they were in the market to buy one of these smaller biotech companies, down 3% following their earnings. I'll have more on that in the morning. Skechers, obviously this is, going to be hit with tariffs. I believe they beat on earnings but missed on sales. I did not see what they had to say about forward guidance, but obviously this is they got tariff issues because they manufacture some in China and Vietnam. So anyway, the last one I have here is Boyd Gaming. This is, in the window into the, I guess you could say the discretionary spending, leisure gaming market. Anyways, up 3% after hours. Also in the morning, we're going to hear from SLB, Schlumberger, and ABBV tomorrow morning. ABBV, nice bounce off the lows here. We'll see what they have to say. Another one that's just, an old steady Eddie, Colgate, Palmolive. We'll see what they have to say about, tariffs and if they're going to pass costs on to the consumer. Phillips 66, I believe this is a Warren Buffett stock. They're going to report in the morning. And then CNC, this is a medical managed care stock, just kind of flat city, but I'll have all that in the morning. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up.